Stay in your seats, guys, not the panelists. We have a great session coming up now with CISOs from the States. Yaniv, Harel, who's the Chief Strategy Officer of ICRC and former GM Cyber Solutions Group, Dell. I'd just like to connect something from the last session, as Yaniv calls his panel. Zoal brought up the DSPM market, which shows the strength of Israeli companies, because there was no such market when they started in Gartner. And together, the companies helped create that category. And as he said, 5 of them have already been sold. Yaniv, do you want me to call the people on for you? Okay. So Andrew Smeaton, CISO from Afiniti. Hi. Have a seat. Matthew Hurewitz, Director of Platforms and Application Security, BestBuy. Carla Wheeler, former healthcare CISO. She's in the house? Carla? Okay, great. And Victor, oh, I might mispronounce this. Murineanu? Information Security Manager, Chelsea Football Club, for all those sports fans. First of all, thank you all for coming all this way. Thank you, audience, for being a little bit patient. Yes, I'm going to move changes.
Great. Great. So first, we really appreciate how strong are you here at the audience. And this is, I mean, our session is what stops you for meeting the lunch. So we really appreciate this, and I can understand the reason, because we have here such a cast of strong security experts and CISOs that I would not go anywhere. And we have really the important questions, and we'll try to consume the time the best way. So guys, this is a pleasure to be here together, and let's start immediately with a very short introduction, and then we have a bunch of questions to ask you. So please, Victor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Murineanu. I've been in cybersecurity for almost 20 years, doing various CISO roles and information security management. Worked across a number of industries, including Big Four, worked in financial sector, military, government, publishing, and now I'm in spectator sports. I also work a lot with startups. So in London we have a couple of CISO groups and investment syndicates, and I like to advise startups and help grow the market and the scene.
There you go. Yeah. So hey, my name's Andrew Smeaton. I've been in the industry for like 30 years, dating myself here. I've been a CISO for 23 years, 6 times CISO, worked in the Middle East, Europe, and for the last 20 years in the US. Multiple industries.
Hi, I'm Matt Hurewitz. I've been in cybersecurity now for about 8 years. Before that, I was in engineering and product. Before that, I was a startup founder myself. I'm still fairly active in the investment community.
Hi everyone, Carla Wheeler. I am a recovering healthcare CISO. I've been in healthcare 3 times already. Right now I'm with a software organization out of Silicon Valley. I heard the comments from the previous panel, and been in cybersecurity for about 15 plus years. Before that, engineering, startup organizations, and other type orgs.
Perfect. By the way, there is a chance that there is another mic here. Is it? No. Okay, so we are good. Okay. Yeah. No problem. So, you know, we've just heard what the founders thinks about what is really important. So I want to hear it from you, and I will touch each one of the questions, not by anyone, but not by everybody. So I would like to ask, what are the 2, I would say, high priority issues that concern CISOs of corporations from your perspective? So maybe Matt, I can ask you to start and to address this question.
This isn't a really good question to ask me personally, because I hate this question. It's basically like, what can I sell you? And if I say something that sounds kind of like, but not exactly like what you do, then you come try to sell it to me as if I don't really need what I'm looking to buy, but I need your product. I break this down for founders differently. Every executive cares about three things, right? What's coming from the board and the C-suite, or the news, I'll add to that, because that's very real managing that. And then there's roadmap and there's budget, right? You didn't hear me say security, not because we don't care about security, but because everybody here who has a security company believes that they've found the one spot where there's no tool, and if I buy that, I will be more secure, which I probably will be, but I don't know if it's big enough to matter. I probably wasn't, if you just invented a space or it didn't exist 12 months ago, I'm probably not going to shift around my entire roadmap, and I planned my budget the year before, and I didn't have your thing in mind. So that doesn't mean that if Log4j happens, and the next one happens, and you have the right tool, then it escalates because the news, the board, and the CEO cares about it. But other than that, it's really about understanding what I'm trying to accomplish, where my deficits are, or if what you're doing is big enough to matter in one of the three areas that I mentioned.
Great. I will ask you, Victor, to address this question as well.
Yeah, so sort of to build up from what Matt said, I feel the same, like most of the challenges that CISOs have are not with regards to the technical roadmap, but more with regards to how they position the information security function within the organization. So I guess the biggest challenge comes from moving from the perception of being a cost center to a center of value delivery. And that's where the challenge is, because a lot of the different execs that you interact with have different incentives, right? So for example, some of them are incentivized with regards to short-term cost reduction, whereas others may be having a more interest in the longer-term survival of the organization. Maybe it's the founder, the owner, or even the customers, right? So you have this clash between interests, and so you have to figure out what is the timeline that you're strategizing for. Is it the short-term one, or is it the longer-term one? And how do you balance the two?
Yeah. Good. I would like to ask you, Andy and Carla, in these urgent, in these challenging days today, which everything is urgent and the businesses are short in resources and budgets, do you feel that the real needs of the CISOs are things that they can find a budget at the end of the day to fund them?
So that's a great question. So it depends on the approach of a CISO to the budget, right? 20 years ago, as I approached, my first CISO gigs, as I approached the budget, I'd go to the CFO and I'd say, hey, I want 40 million. And he'd say, Andy, we'll give you 20 million. I said, I definitely need 30 million. He said, we'll give you 25. And it was like being in a Istanbul market trying to negotiate your wife's handbag, right? I don't do that now. I say, hey, I present my budget and I say, this is run the business, right? This is the cost of doing business for Afiniti, for Data Robot, any of the other companies. And I'll say, this is your contractual obligations to your customers, and this is your compliance obligations, right? So that's run the business, right? That's category one. If the CFO says to me, hang on a second, we can't afford that, I'm like, well, let's bring the chief legal officer in the room and let's have the three of us have that conversation, right? Because you're contractually applied or your compliance, right? Secondly, I'll do risk one, your growth one, risk two, growth two, risk, three. And what I've found is, to be successful over the years, CFOs are really risk adverse, right? Super risk adverse people. So they'll say to you, okay, Andy, we'll give you 30 million, 20 million, whatever it is. I'll say, okay, so you're accepting the risk of risk two and you're risk three. And they're like, hang on a second, no, I'm not accepting risk, Andy, right? And so what I found is I'll get that 40 million or I'll get that 30 million, 38 million, whatever I need and stuff, right? Every time and stuff, right? I mean, we can't get absolutely everything. And this is a lesson like for startups, right? When you approach a CISO, you've got to be in that run the business category, right? You can't be in the wants and the needs and the hopes, right? You've got to be in absolutely run the business. You've got to be essential to the business. So you've really got to look at, you know, the compliance or contractual obligations, do your research on the business.
I was smiling as you were speaking because risk averse is a nice way of saying cheap. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, is the money there? The money is certainly there, and part of our job is to keep our organization, keep the CEO out of trouble, right? Keep ourselves out of the news, keep ourselves away from the bad and the poor reputation. And especially in healthcare in the U.S., I mean, we're getting hammered. We're getting hammered left and right. The investment is not there. We're just having that conversation in the taxi ride here. It just, you know, we just haven't invested, and we're just easy target left and right. So when it comes down to many of us, in some cases, whether we report to the CFO, bless us, or, you know, if we are fortunate enough to report to the CEO, we have less of an issue and concern where we're able to really kind of waver that and show where we are. But yes, the money is there because I think a couple of us are in the sport area where we can afford to have box seats to basically take our clients out and things like that, then we can afford to put in a protection. So it's called pay now or pay later. And I think now, more in days, that organizations really understand the value behind cyber than they did many moons before, thanks to, you know, Lockbit and others who have definitely scared the boo-boo out of a lot of us. So with that, I'll pass it on.
Great.
So just want to add something to this because I'm currently working in an industry where cybersecurity is not that mature. So I was saying earlier that a lot of the security functions of big football clubs only started around, I think, after 2016, or so that was just after football leagues. I don't know if anybody here heard about it. So what this means is that when they first started these functions, which was essentially one-man show, everybody thought, okay, we checked that box, right? So we don't need to invest in cyber. And then they discovered that cyber actually has a lot of domains, and all of those domains have their own complexities and levels of maturity. So it's very complex. On one hand, I like the approach of passing risks to the chief financial officer or the chief risk officer, but in some instances that doesn't work because they think, oh, it's not going to happen to me, right? Or I'm finishing my tenure this year, let the next guy deal with this. Yeah, so I forgot my train of thought, but yeah, pretty much it depends on the industry as well.
Sorry, just to add to that, right? If you think of, like, I always think of PEC, right? And that is revenue protection, right, for the organization, business enablement, right? So what are you selling? Revenue protection, business enablement, or compliance, right? And it's got to fall into one of them three categories. And
so I remember what I wanted to add is that there's always the tendency of saying, I need more money for information security. But I think we can also turn that on its head and think, can I do more with less, actually? And for the first time with artificial intelligence, it's possible that we can get there. It's also possible that we can erase that contradiction between security and usability, right? So we have new technologies to actually make it more secure and easier for our end users to do their job. So one way to think about it is that rather than incrementally improving what I'm doing in cybersecurity, can I revolutionize everything and eliminate one of that needs by doing something completely different?
Great. I would like to ask you, you know, you hear a lot of pitches of startups. So how can, and maybe Carla, start with you, how, when you hear a pitch of a startup, so how you differentiate and how you decide, I mean, between, you have to get your opinion about the team, the technology, the solution, the idea, so how you do it?
So when I'm listening to a startup or one that's approaching me, I think for me, that startup, they have to come to me and really approach me with the passion of their product and their service and really show me what they're bringing right there. I find sometimes the companies in an organization, they'll give me like 2 seconds of what they're coming to deliver, and they're immediately trying to find out more about my company, my organization, and then what they're trying to do is instantly repeat what I'm saying and saying everything that I'm doing and saying, yes, I can deliver that. And that's not what I want. I actually want to hear what you can bring to the table to make sure that you're going to provide those services to me. So as soon as I hear that, I've immediately turned you off, right? And then I will say the other thing I was going to share is that last year, for whatever reason, and maybe because, as the panel before was saying, there's so many startups here, I started receiving more inquiries from startups within this area, reaching out to me via LinkedIn just to ask for comments and expertise. They weren't paying me though, but I did meet with them regardless, just to provide opinion and feedback for differences, just to spend time with them. And I found that during that they would have like strong technical expertise, and sometimes we would get into the technical aspect, and then other things. I think it was maybe Ron or one of the gentlemen who are up here. They would be, I'll say, from maybe on the vulnerability side or on the GRC side or things like that. It was just things where they can kind of, do some tweaking and things like that. And some of them would circle back.
Okay. Andy or Victor, you want to add something about this?
Yeah, so I think in general it depends on what hat I'm wearing when they're pitching. Is it are they approaching me as a CISO or as an investor? Sometimes it's not very clear because we meet in different scenarios. As a CISO, I want to see a new way of doing things, right? If you're just offering me something that I'm already doing, but maybe at a different price point, it's not really that attractive because I have to put in all the effort of removing what I have, doing the work to give you feedback and introduce that new solution in my infrastructure, which is very challenging, and I just prefer not to do that saving. So I usually get very excited when I discover that, hey, there's actually a whole new area that I'm not covering, and this solution, it's answering that question.
So yeah, I'll keep it simple, right? When a startup comes to me, I'm like, hey, what business problem are you going to solve for me as a CISO? What's the business problem that you're going to solve for me, right? And then I'll distinguish that, right? And we go back again. Is it revenue protection, right? The story that I need to tell is a compliance issue, another story. But what I will say is when you're approaching CISOs, know your CISO. There's so many different types of CISOs now. There's CISOs that are not even CISOs, right? And I'm not joking here. Ira talks about this a lot. There's CISOs with just a complete legal background, or CISOs with technical background, or security leaders with all sorts of backgrounds. So just know your pitch and know the business problem you're solving and how you're going to solve that business problem.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm going to add to this is that a great first pitch to a CISO doesn't really require you to share so many of the things that everybody loves to share. I don't care about your vision. You don't need to spend 3 slides walking me through all the nuances. I care about my problems. And if you don't ask me what my problems are, and if you don't walk through how much better my life is going to be if you were in it and solving those problems for me, and I don't repeat back to you that it's big enough to matter, which is code for like, I'm interested because this aligns to the things I already care about. And you can get to all of that by asking questions without even really talking about the problem that you're solving, right? You've validated everything around it. All you need is like 5 minutes. If I can do X based on what you've explained to me and the numbers that we crunched out loud, is that big enough to matter? And I say yes, then boom, that's a great call. Then maybe you tell me I do X for Y and it solves Z as a problem, right? And that's really the beginning of it. So many of those conversations go so off the wall that I'm thinking about my next meeting, my flight home, my kids, my wife, whatever. Like, you have to meet the person you're pitching where they're at on their terms based on what's important to them. And that's how, in my opinion, you have a great like first meeting and do it the right way.
Great. I would like.
Sorry, just one
Yeah,
more thing.
please.
Just the thing is, right, the most important thing, before you go into that meeting, know the business problem that you're going to solve for the CISO. That's it. That's,
Yeah,
you know.
I would like to ask you, Andy, you already touched it before, but look, if I'm a startup and I want on one hand to touch the blue ocean, something new that no one really touched before, and on the other hand, you ask me to fall into a category that you already planned the budget like a year ago. So in this dilemma, what is your recommendation? I mean, do we have, I mean, the founders that are here in the audience, I mean, do they have to fall into a known category, or there is a room for new ideas?
So for me, right, categories are irrelevant, right? Nice to know, whatever, it's irrelevant, right? You always equate it to what the business problem is, and you just take it down to that, right? Is it a compliance problem you're solving? Is it revenue protection? Is it a business enablement? That's what it comes down to, right? Everything else is minutia, right? It's detail.
Matt, do you want to add about this?
I'd add that if you're truly blue ocean, and many more people claim to be than actually are, like they're narrowly adjacent to something else, and then I don't really consider that. But if you're doing something really new, you have to find your true believers, like the people that are in the role, that the businesses have this problem, that there's high risk exposure, because this will date me, nobody gets fired for hiring IBM. Now it's probably nobody gets fired for hiring Google or Amazon or whatever it is. But like, if I have something that's critically important to my business, and I decide to roll the dice and bring in a company that I've never heard of to do a thing that, is brand new to the market, like, that has real implications if things go sideways, especially if those things are, they oversold their product or their ability to implement, and it's 2 years in and we're not fully deployed, and just all of those things. And so you really need the true believers. You have to have the business problems that are so big that despite the fact that nobody else is doing it, if I can't buy something from Microsoft or Palo or whomever to do it, I have no choice than to go with you, right? And you can help me frame that case to whomever I need to frame it to. But if you're truly blue ocean, like, that's the approach.
Mm-hmm. Great. I would like to look, this is June 2024, and we are already here about 15 minutes, and I haven't asked you anything about AI, so shame on me. So I want to ask your opinion, maybe Victor and Andy. I mean, do you think that AI is really going to change, I mean, the CISO priorities? Is it going to stay for a long time as super important, or is it a hype that we'll see it going down in the next few years? So,
Yeah, I think it's important to differentiate between AI used as a tool by the CISOs and AI as a threat coming from the cyber attacker side. As a tool from the CISO, I think it has the potential to shift priorities. First of all, it helps us cover that baseline much better, the typical things you do from an operational point of view. And I think it will be able to give us even a better hold on what we do at a more strategic level, risk management, right? So an example I give very often is the fact that a lot of organizations only do their risk register once a year, right? And then now and then when they find out something new. Well, with AI, potentially you can do this in real time, right? And have your risk register updated all the time. And the next level, maybe it's even strategy, right? Maybe AI will be able to do your strategy for you and keep it in real time so that you can update the organization immediately after a new threat emerges.
So AI, 5 years ago, I wrote 2 papers, or 4 years ago, I wrote 2 papers. And because I'm a CISO, I'm negatively thinking, right? I wrote AI for bad first. And 2 weeks later, I published AI for good, right? And all the things that AI could do in the industry. To answer your question, this isn't blockchain. This is not an overhyped thing. Absolutely, AI is going to revolutionize everything that we do, 100%, right? And in the security industry too, there are coins and terms and stuff, right, that get overhyped constantly in our industry. Blockchain was one of them. Absolutely overhyped. Everyone was talking about it 4 years ago. Every conference, everywhere you went, every second speech, blockchain, blockchain, blockchain. But no, it's, to answer your question, AI is here to stay, and it will revolutionize everything that we do.
Great. I would like to ask maybe Matt and Carla regarding. We heard this morning VCs sitting here and sharing their thoughts. Now, specifically in cybersecurity, you find VCs that are asking founders to come with testimonials of CISOs that they say, if this product or this offering would be ready, we would pay for it tomorrow morning. Now, we call them venture capital. So I mean, are we developing the needs of today or the needs of tomorrow? And who is investing in developing the future if we are expecting every founder to come with 10 CISOs that really have this pain today?
So that's it.
Great, thank you. So we could continue and talk like for 2 hours, but since we are out of time and we have a very busy Cyber Week, so I would like to thank you for coming here and for spending the time to answer questions and to be with us in this event. I would like to thank Carla and Louise for being my partners to run this event for the time. And to the rest of the Cyber Week team, and to thank you, our audience, to be so patient and wait for us till this end of this session. Thank you so much, and have a great Cyber Week. Yeah, Gilly, you want to say, please? So
thank you all for joining us today, and we invited you to join us lunch. And we expect a very, very fruitful Cyber Week and AI Week, so you can join us there.